Longines is a historical brand that has been trying to reinvent itself for a while. But along with the evolution they are seeking for, there is also a rather important challenge they have to face to achieve their goal. Longines is one of the most historical brands in the world. It is a brand with heritage, full of innovations, but above all, it has always been a brand with impeccable quality. Okay, cool. But what is Longines looking for? We all know that Longines is part of the Swatch Group, which is a family of many brands including luxury brands like Mido, Tissot, Hamilton, Grado, but also high watchmaking brands like Omega, Glashütte, or Jacquet Dro. If we had to sort it out, I would say that Longines would rank in terms of quality and price, of course, above Mido, Tissot, Hamilton, and Grado, but below Omega, and obviously below Glashütte or Jacquet Dro or Harry Winston, but they're another story. Okay, George, that's cool, but what does all of this have to do with Longines? Well, it's very simple. While the brands that compete against Omega are obviously raising their prices, raising their market, Omega is doing the same. Now let's leave Glashütte and all of the other brands out of this because they're in another tier. But the important thing here is to see the Swatch Group as a block, not as separate brands, because by being a conglomerate, they form an army. And yes, we know that the brands compete against each other, but in reality, it is all for the benefit of the Swatch Group. So let's say that in general, they cover the price range from $10,000 below. So we have Omega at the top of this tier, but gradually they have been expanding their quality, their market, and gradually raising their prices. They want to reach a slightly higher market. On the other side, or the affordable side, we have Tissot with watches ranging from between $300 to $2,000. We have Hamilton in the same range and the same price. We have also Grado, and then we have Mido, which basically all of these four brands have a monopoly on entry-level brands. But if you realize, there is a space between the more expensive watches of these brands that go up to maybe $2,000 or $3,000 max, and let's say the average of Omega watches that are around between $7,000 or $8,000. We're not going too high. So there is this space between $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 that Longines occupies. Now, obviously, there is a lot of affordable watches and much more expensive watches, but we're talking a bit about price ranges. But what happens when Omega starts to raise its prices and quality, obviously? There is an empty space there that Longines has to occupy because it is the brand that makes the most sense. Now, if you had asked people a few years ago, a lot of them would have told you that Longines is maybe an entry-level brand because it had very simple models. It had models like the Conquest with quartz movement that were affordable, good quality, but it was worth around $500 maximum. But if you compare all of the previous models of Longines and compare them with what they are releasing today, it is a world of difference. Before, yes, we had some dive watches, we had chronographs, but let's say the Longines before was a brand that was maybe at the top, but at the same level of its siblings between Tissot, Mido, Grado, and Hamilton. And now we have watches with complications like, flyback chronographs, watches with spectacular complications such as the annual calendar, a triple calendar with moon phase and chronograph, which I know this model already existed, but it was just a glimpse of what Longines can and will be. We also have the new GMT collections. We have very complicated, very well-made collections. And I also think we have an advantage for the consumer, because as I told you before, Longines is part of the Swatch Group. This means that they cannot raise their prices just because they want to. In fact, their prices have to go hand in hand with what the Swatch Group needs. And that price has a ceiling, because Longines cannot tread on Omega's ground. So that means that Longines has to strive to make watches of the highest quality without excessively raising the price. Basically, what Longines wants to do is to be a high horology brand, which they already are. But the challenge they face, which is the main topic of this video, is people's perception. Longines has existed since the 1800s, but before, they were really high quality watches with a lot of innovations. Then Swatch Group bought them and it got a bit diluted. It became a reliable, affordable brand. And this is where the subject of the previous video comes in. Now if you haven't seen it, I'll leave it here for you. But we basically said that the ETA caliber was basic for 99% of Swiss brands. It became a generic caliber that, while it is a quality movement, easy to repair and reliable, it is still something that has become the norm. It is something we see everywhere. So Swatch, when they bought the ETA group, ended the sale of calibers to other brands to make it exclusive for Swatch Group brands. Obviously, all the brands below use a different variation of an ETA caliber. But the problem Longines has is that they are already dragging the idea that all of their calibers are generic, although they are spectacularly finished and they even have crazy complications. For example, the chronograph with a column wheel, a flyback chronograph, annual calendars that you won't find in any other Swatch Group brand, let alone the small brands, not even in Omega or Breguet or any other, because they are Longines exclusive calibers. Now let's be honest, if you are the 1% of population watching this video, you are probably one of the few who realize all of this. You know that Longines calibers are exclusive to the brand, you know they have a column wheel chronograph, you know they are decorated, but a normal person who goes to a retail store to buy a watch, the reality is that all of this doesn't matter to them. They care about how the watch looks, how it feels, how heavy it is, how recognizable the brand is, because that is the reality. 90% of people or more buy a watch because the brand is recognizable, because they saw it advertised with some star, or because the brand sponsors Formula 1. So the biggest challenge Longines has is to convey everything they are doing, not to watch nerds like me and you, because we already know about it. We know that Longines is growing and will eventually destroy its competition, because for other brands it will be unsustainable to compete with its quality and prices. That is a matter of when. The real challenge is to convince the general public that their watches look better, because the truth is they are beautiful watches. It is to convince them that Longines watches are at the same level or above many other brands that are more recognizable. Now the work is done, the quality is there, the price speaks for itself. It just needs to have an appropriate language and communication, and believe me, when this happens, no one is going to stop Longines.